If you ever go shopping, or you can probably look in your own house, and there are a lot of foods that are in cans. You know, you can have a can of beans, you can have a can of peas, you can have a can of squash, you can have a can of all sorts of things. Whether it's an 8-ounce can or a 12-ounce can or 16-ounce can. But there are a lot of things in life that you can't put in a can. Wouldn't it be great if you could find an 8-ounce can of peace? Man, that'd be great. Wouldn't it be great if you could find maybe a 10-ounce can of patience? I know working with young people, me and Mr. Thomas, there are times we just need a big old 12-ounce can of patience. It'll really help out. Wouldn't it be great at times if you could find maybe a 16-ounce can of courage? And there are a lot of things in your life where you need courage. But those things don't come in a can. But I want to talk to you today about the I can philosophy. And that is found in Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. Many of you are familiar with it. It says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's what I call the I can philosophy. So how do you get to the point to where you can put that in your mind, in your body, in your soul? I want to give you a little demonstration here. I did not come up with this. There's people that have done this that I've seen do it. But I want you to look at this orange, and you know I can move it around, and you know when you do that to a fruit, it kind of loosens up the juice. And you can, you know, drop it and hit it with some things. And so a lot of things in life can get loosened up. And if I took a knife right now, or I took something else, and whether I cut it or sliced it or just punctured it, you should know that orange juice is going to come out of here. Not grape juice, not grapefruit juice, not apple juice, orange juice. Why? Because that's what this is full of. And I ask you the question, what's inside of you? Because you see, if you have hate within you, and vengeance and malevolence, and all of these vices that are flowing through you, when you get punctured, when somebody pushes you, when somebody presses your buttons, that's what's going to come out. But you can also fill your life here with peace and mercy and forgiveness and long suffering and courage. And then when you get sliced, when you get cut, when you get punctured, then that's what's going to come out, because that's what's inside. So how do you fill yourself up with the virtues and not the vices? There's verse after verse after verse in the Bible that talks about what goes inside a man. Paul says, just the 4 verses before the one I quoted you, he says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are good, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of a good report, think on these things. And people, that is one of the great keys to life. Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And in his heart just means that we dwell on it. That's we keep it for hours. But here's what you need to remember. As a man thinks, as a woman thinks, as you think, so are you. So what do you spend your time thinking about? That is what is important. Everyone wants to go through life, and we all want to have a testimony. But understand that a testimony only comes after the test. I love giving grades back when somebody's made an A or A plus. And they can have a testimony. Mom, guess what I made on the test? Well, that's great. But you had to make it through the test before you have a testimony. All people want to be blessed. And I pray to God, and if you pray, you probably do too. God bless me, bless my family, bless what I am about. But you know, with every blessing there is burdens. And there is a burden that you have to carry to get through to the blessing. Everybody wants to have the sweet things in life. I love sweet tea. Especially southern sweet tea. When I travel a lot, which I do, if you go up north, I say, do y'all have southern sweet tea? And they say, no, we don't. But you can pour this in it. And it's like, that doesn't work. Because when you pour sugar into cold tea, it's not the same thing. You've got to put the sugar in when it's hot. You've got to put the sugar in when it's sweating. You see, we love the sweet things of life, but not so much the sweat. But if you are to have the sweet things in life, you have to go through the sweaty parts also. Do you understand that? For every conquest, there is conflict. And for every crown, and everybody wants to have a crown, you have to go through the cross. You need to understand that. And there are verses in the Bible like this that want to tell you that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. God wants you to know, when it comes to the mountains of life, when it comes to the trials of life, the tribulations of life, the problems of life, He wants you to climb those mountains. And if it takes sweat, so be it. If it takes a burden, every step can be a burden. Every step can be full of sweat. Every step you can have a cross on your back. But you must have the attitude that I can make it to the top. I can make it through this school. I can make it through algebra. I can do all of these things. And when you get to the mountain, to the top of the mountain and see the giant there, you can beat him too. And the giant is the pain and the suffering and the loss and even the death that comes with life. But you can knock him down, take his sword, cut his head off, and hold it up and say, praise be to God. I've had people ask me, they say, man, where do you get stuff like that? Well, I got that from the Bible. That's exactly what David did. When David runs up to the giant Goliath, he did not sit around the campfire and whine and gripe and moan like everybody else did. In fact, it says that he ran to meet him. You need to have the attitude that I can run to meet the problems of life. I can run with this burden. I can run with this cross. What does all that mean? It talks about the problems and trials that you're going to run into. Whether it has to do with family, whether it has to do with relationship, whether it has to do with school, whether it has to do with whatever it may be you're working with in your life, finances later on. You run to meet the problem. And you go through your life from a psychological point of view, as I've been talking in my psychology class. It is to fight the dragon. And there are dragons everywhere. And so you defeat the dragon, you kill the dragon, and then you get the gold. And what is the gold? It is to understand that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And if you understand that, people, you will attack the dragons in your life. You will attack the Goliaths in your life. And you will even run to meet them. And that's the kind of attitude that God wants you to have in your life. Some of you need to have a crucifixion service. You need to crucify the words, I can't. I'm sure Mr. Thomas does, and I would love to have $1 for every time I've heard somebody say, I can't do math. We hear it all the time, don't we? I can't do math. Well, you can. You might not be as good at it as someone else that might come naturally or easily to, but you can. You can do Algebra 1. You can pass pre-algebra. You can pass your government course. You can. And you should run to meet it. Understand that I can do it through Christ. And so I would tell each and every one of you to have a crucifixion service today. Crucify the words, I can't. I can't. Get rid of all your excuses. I can't pass because I have ADD. I can't pass because I have ADHD. I can't pass because I'm DUMB. Get rid of all of that stuff. None of it matters. You can do it. You can accomplish the goals and the dreams and the aspirations that God wants you to have. But you have to do it through Christ. And so get rid of any excuses you have. I don't care what they are. Don't care what they are. I don't know if y'all know this guy, but when my son was younger, I took him to see a movie, and it was a pretty good movie. I know the movie made millions of dollars. And the hero of the movie, the protagonist, was a guy by the name of SpongeBob SquarePants. Now, I don't know if you know who SpongeBob SquarePants is, but he's made millions of dollars living at the bottom of the sea. And the point is, if SpongeBob SquarePants can make $1 million, what's your problem? I also, one time, I'm not a big reader of magazines, but this has been years ago, I pulled out Time magazine, which is one of the biggest magazines in the world. And on their cover, the cover actress that they had was a young lady named Miss Piggy. Miss Piggy was on the cover of Time magazine. If you don't know who Miss Piggy is, you need to go look up Miss Piggy, because Miss Piggy made millions of dollars. And I want to tell you, if Miss Piggy made the cover of Time magazine, what's your problem? What's your excuse? And the answer is you shouldn't have one. Because there are tons of people that are not as good looking as you, that are not as wealthy as you, that do not have the advantages you have, that have done really well in life. So what's your excuse? Get rid of all of them. And decide that whatever my dreams are, whatever my goals, whatever my ambitions, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Let me end with this story, and then I'll cut you loose a little bit, a minute or two early. It happened about 200 years ago in the West. There was a man and his wife. He had a couple of children. They lived out on the frontier. They had horse, they had a cow, they had a goat or two, and they had some chickens. And the man used to hunt a lot. And one day when he went hunting, he found this little bird that had fallen out of his nest. He took pity on it, and he took the bird home. And he put it in his chicken yard. And he let it live with the chickens. Now the bird did survive, but he did not do very well. First and foremost, he did not look like a chicken. And so none of the chickens would have much to do with him. They would just leave him alone. And so he was very lonely. He also, when he walked, his feet were not conducive to walking on the ground. And so his feet were sore all of the time. He only had chicken food to eat, and he ate what a chicken ate, but it did not settle with his digestive system very well. But he did survive, he did grow, and a month passed by, and then a second month, and then a third. And one day, as this poor bird was hobbling across the yard, he saw a shadow go above him. And all the chickens just scattered and ran for cover. But he didn't know what was going on. And for the first time in his life, he raised his eyes above the ground. And for the first time in his life, he looked up into the sky. And he saw an American bald eagle, the king of birds, soaring on the wings of the wind. And for the first time in this little bird's life, a gleam came into his eye. And for the first time in his life, he spread forth his wings, which by now were magnificent. And for the first time in his life, he took and flew the wings, and he left the ground, and he went up and up and up until he too was soaring on the wings of the wind, because he too was an American bald eagle created by God to rule the skies. God did not create you to live the life of a chicken. He did not create you to just hobble around eating chicken food and doing what a chicken does. God wants you to lift your eyes. He wants you to gaze to the Son of God. Isaiah 40:31 says this, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not grow weary. They shall walk and faint not." And that is what God wants you to do with your life. To spread forth your wings and fly. And to go after the dreams and the goals and the aspirations. And to, when you meet the giants and when you meet the dragons, run toward them. Understanding that the burden, understanding that the cross, understanding that all of that is part of it. And so embrace it and climb the mountains of life that each of you have to climb, and slay the dragon on top and get the gold, and understand that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.